Hey, this is Chadillac. Welcome back to the Cage Rage podcast, and we're talking boxing today. ESPN did some great stuff this weekend for free. Lomachenko, one of the best fighters on the planet, maybe the best fighter of all time. That remains to be seen yet. I don't know that he looked like the best fighter in the world Saturday night, but he looked pretty great no matter how you look at it. I'm here with boxing analyst, fight specialist, archivist, and all-around great guy, Miguel Ederati. Miguel, how are you today?
Doing good. Obviously coming off what we expected a Loma showcase, and I'm here to eat some crow about the undercard fights.
Hey, and with us again today, I'm super happy to announce absolutely permanent man to the show. We have officially signed the documents. It is here to stay. Ladies and gentlemen, Anthony Scott Piatt. Scotty, what's up, brother?
Hey, glad to be with you guys, both of you. Yeah, this is a great weekend and looking forward to talking about it, and really glad to be a part of the Cage Rage podcast. Thanks to all of you, Hey,
so let's jump right into it. Listen, ESPN put on a stellar card this weekend for free. HBO backed out. We're going to do an HBO thing later on this week as a send-off to, a 45-year run in one of the greatest boxing annals of all time. But for now, let's just go ahead and get right into what ESPN did for free, did I mention? And talk about the first fight on the undercard, which was Lopez and Menard. Is Menard alive? Has anyone heard anything yet? Maybe that's kind of a tasteless joke with everything that happened with Stevenson, and Stevenson's still recovering. We wish him the best, and they took some time to talk about that. They actually had Stevenson's opponent there, and he was really concerned about it, etc. So let's not go into that. Let's just let that be what it is. Miguel, take me through the Lopez knockout real quickly.
Well, I think what we suspected happened here, and that was that, first of all, I agree with what you said. That hats off to Top Rank, because they did put on a nice show, and on TV with the lights and the whole thing, it really came across as a real high quality show, different to some of the other more rinky-dink shows that you see here. They rolled out the first carpet, the red carpet for the production end anyway. With Lopez, we had talked about it in the pre-fight that, he'd been signed coming off the Olympics. He didn't make the American Olympic team. So, you get an inkling that there are guys, that make it, obviously. Although, coming out of the Olympics, it was he that was signed with Top Rank as an Honduran Olympian. He held out in the first round in the Olympics. But he does have American training. He's guys that, with his, the two languages and things like that. Top Rank has been pretty long. This was supposed to be a fight. It was another. He fought a guy 25-1 recently, but Menard at 34-3, definitely a guy who actually had him on experience, and they really didn't let that show in the fight. Took him out early and fast. I think it's a good showcase for him. I don't think he's ready for a title shot. And, calling the champions, and, Loma at the top card, that's his weight class. And, you got other guys, Vonta Davis and things like that there. That, but Lopez definitely is put his trajectory on target to be in the mix. He now is 11-0, so I don't think he's there yet. But it definitely was a wake-up call. It was a nice spot to happen, everything comes together there when you get a lot of it. Hopefully we get some quality fights out of Lopez that continues on the rise.
Yeah. So Scotty, take us through the actual finishing of that fight and what you saw. I know that you've seen a lot of Lopez's work as well, and actually take us through the finish of that fight, because it was absolutely grisly.
Well, I mean, honestly, I can't add a lot to what Miguel said. Even before he knew Teofimo was coming in real strong, I actually expected Mason to hang in there a little bit longer. I thought he was a veteran with a bit more of a chin than that from the film I'd seen on Mason. I didn't expect this first round thing. Strong right arm, I think. Overhand right is what finished it, and you just knew the guy was in trouble at that point, and that it was over. I mean, you didn't expect sort of some Tyson Fury rise from the dead. When you saw that punch land, you kind of knew that was that. I mean, there's not a whole lot to tell in that fight. He came out and just whooped the boy in the old-fashioned style of first round knockout. Wasn't much of a showcase for Teofimo. I think a couple of my buddies were in refilling their chili bowl, and the fight ended. You know what I mean? Didn't even get to see the darn. I had 8 or 10 guys over who were watching the fight. So a lot of people even missed that fight. So I mean, yeah, it's good, and you saw it in replay. But we didn't see if he's a great boxer or not. He just went out and clobbered a guy now, didn't he? So, and more power to him. He jumped and he didn't get hurt. He got his money and he got out. That's a good thing to do. Live to fight another day. But wow, amazing overall.
Yeah, you know, it might be safe to say that people are going to be shopping at Lowe's instead of Menards this winter.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Wow. You know, when I saw them escorting him out of the ring, there was a part of me that said, you know, you might want to do a little more than just help him walk down the stairs, because the guy could literally barely walk down the stairs. Anyways, hey, enough of that one. Let's get on to the one we missed. You guys were really high on the hog about Dogboe, and for very good reasons. What happened? Who wants to take off with this? Miguel, tell me what the deal was. What happened?
Well, you know, boxing happened. And, you know, it's one of those things, anything can happen in boxing, and that's what you had. You know, you had a guy who's rising from Africa, and there's always, the Africans, to me, always kind of represent like a feel-good story, you know, because there is like, they seem to overcome a lot, and you really got to be dedicated to rise above the boxing scene and get to the international level in Africa. And I think Africa is ripe for a big star. I think, you know, there's a lot of vibrant personalities and things like that. They're coming up in soccer and other sports and things. So I think the time is right for a boxing guy to take over the African superstar kind of thing, you know. We've had good boxers from Africa, but not a transcendental star yet. And I don't know that I earmarked Dogboe like that, but I was high on him. We did talk about whether you know, he was going to be able to make championships in other weight classes or moving up in weight. And I think that's right there that's where the discussion really starts with what happened this past Saturday night. I think bottom line is when there's that big of a visible weight and size difference between two fighters, then all things should go out the window. And you're not sure. You know, the other fighter maybe have the resume, although he has and good resume, just one loss coming in and stuff. But he was so much stronger. Dogboe fought, and he fought hard. He shows the qualities that I like to see in a guy, not quitting and stuff. In a fight, he's fighting an uphill battle the whole time. But Dogboe said it at the end, the better guy won. It's just the difference in the physicality is what did it, because Dogboe could never break through and get in under the other guy. The other guy was just huge for the weight class. You get a freak like that sometimes.
Yeah, so Scotty, do you think in a way that we saw a preview to what we kind of saw in the main event, which was a much longer fighter? In the case of Lomachenko, Pedraza had a 7-inch reach advantage, I think it was. But you had kind of the same sort of setup. You know, you've got your favorite facing a guy with a huge reach advantage on him. And in that situation, though, we actually saw the opposite effect happen that we didn't think would happen. And so talk me through that. Talk to me about that scenario.
Well, thinking of the Dogboe fight, I think you and I had done a podcast last week, just the two of us, and I said there's something about his training that's not right. There's something kind of, I'm not sure what I'm hearing or what I'm feeling, but something's not right about his training. if we were sort of getting to where we're headed to with talking about our undercard picks. You know, did I think Dogboe would win? Yeah, I did. But did I think this was a good undercard pick? Because Navarrete only lost by split decision before in his career. He's never been knocked down. So then I got to a point, well, if Dogboe's really having trouble with his training and whatnot, then he's going to need to be spectacular. He may need to knock him down at least, you know. So once he got behind in points, this thing was basically over. I mean, you're fighting from a point of desperation at that point because you're not likely to knock him down. He's a bigger, stronger fighter who's never been knocked down. How are you going to do it? Giving up the height and the reach and whatnot. So this is sort of a fight that's painful to watch by the round. And when you think of Dogboe, he's fought, I think, 4 times this year. One title January 6th. Well, I had mentioned it in an earlier podcast that you and I did, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it or find corroborating, sort of backup. But my suspicions after the fight were sort of confirmed by them from the camp saying that they train in London, but they traveled back to Ghana a couple of different times. They traveled back to see the Apostle Revelation Society. The high priest there had prayed for him before, so they came back. They gave the belt to God, so to speak. And then they came back for the royal visit of the Prince of Wales, the Duchess of Cornwall to Ghana, and the Hogbet Soso Festival. They also made time for the Hogbet Soso Festival and came back. And so it really disrupted their training, and they didn't put in the effort. So my point is not that his faith in God won him the title, which I don't believe, nor do I believe it directly lost him the title. But with a loss outside yourself, then you probably need to reevaluate what you're doing. He didn't train hard enough. That's what it is. It may be because he thought he had divinity on his side, perhaps. So if anything, it was a detriment. Without getting into that too deep, he feels a lot of obligation to those folks that were praying for him and whatnot. So and that came with extra traveling that I don't think he should have done. So basically, that's where I'm coming at with that. He really had wobbly legs. He really didn't look strong. Could he have overcome this guy? He would have had outpointed him. And that was the thing all along. You're going to have to get points against a guy that's never been knocked down and only lost split decision. And he was not ready for that at all. Training, conditioning, cardio.
Yeah. Miguel, anything to add to that one before we move forward?
No, I think, it does show one of the bugaboos of boxing. I'm going to extrapolate a little bit and make assumptions, but I don't think I'll be very far off. I don't think Dogboe coming up had the finances to be flying back and forth from London to Ghana. That's a result of having won the world championship and maybe, getting a new tax bracket and, maybe mishandling some of the finances and stuff. Because I don't think he's flying back to Ghana alone. He's probably carrying an entourage, a couple of people with him, stuff, this, that, the other stuff. And now he's lost his world title, so the next payday comes in. So there's a little bit, there could even be a cautionary tale for some of those guys, because they come from something that is poverty that's different than we're accustomed to in the States, right? So they've seen a lot in Africa, and when they get to the main front line, you really hope that they can take care of themselves and they're able to manage their finances. And, I'm not saying that's the case here, but it just hints at that because in your first taste of the big time, did you really need to go back? What was that, a hat festival?
Yeah, guys, that really.
It's like country boys, I know it's Africa, so it's completely different, but it sounds like a party, a festival, right?
Yeah.
It's like, man, that's exactly what world champions avoid.
Yeah, so, guys, I think this really shows exactly where the Cage Rage podcast is going and maybe what we can offer our viewers and our audience that other people and other podcasts can't. And that's that we have a triple viewpoint on all of this stuff, or at least a double viewpoint. And Scott just pointed out some things that he felt were detrimental to a fighter's victory or his loss. And Miguel said, no, I don't think it's necessarily that, but I think it's this. And both of them have a great deal of validity to them. And then we were able to draw a point that where both sides met And I think it's important that we point that out. So great work on that. Hey, so let's move on. Let's get right on to the fight of the evening. Who wants to start that out? Scotty, take us away. You're the Lomachenko freak of all fans. I'm not far behind you. So why don't you start off with those first couple of rounds and tell us what was going on there?
Yeah, and as I think about this, I think about what I stated going into it, is that right shoulder really is not ready to be fighting on yet.
Nope.
And I've looked into it a little bit more. I'm going to take my watch off to show you guys something here real quick. But his labrum in his shoulder tear might be from 2 o'clock to about 6 o'clock on your dial. He went about 360 degrees, Loma did. He ripped that whole thing out much more than normal, see? So not only is a normal one take till February before you should start working out, I mean, he's all the way around here. So he's about all the way around 360 degrees. And I followed some of the training. I went back and looked into it. He basically had to take baby steps as he went. He had to have video conference calls with his doctor. Okay, you can do a little bit more, a little bit more. I think the truth of it is they don't want to stop the progression. They didn't want to miss the chance of getting that belt. And they knew they could get that belt essentially one in. They essentially beat Pedraza with the left hand just like they beat Linares. And what that did was that took away a lot of the stepping to the right so that you can then throw a nice right hook to the ribs or the head or whatnot. What makes it so beautiful, right? So that's selfishly, I'm sad I didn't get to see him fight like that. But I also stay back, like I did with Phoenix Lewis, and say, is he fighting a boring style? Yeah, but it's what you need to do to beat this guy, whoever his opponent was. Does he fight fastic? Yeah. He's fighting crazy, but that's what you have to do to beat this guy, right? So I think Loma knew that it was worth the risk to go out here and fight this guy and not really talk about the right arm, not let Pedraza hang on it, but also he threw next to 0 right hooks and none that really peppered Pedraza. So he gave up on that right arm and that right hook, and still came out in the championship rounds to make sure he sealed the deal. He went sort of spectacular, but they were a lot of straight rights, if you notice. Not a lot of the hooks. So basically, he won that as a boxer, as a tactician, and but that heel. I don't know how long that thing, and I hope that it actually heals fully. I hope we have the last of his bombastic right hooks and whatnot. That would change the story. That would change the history of the Lomachenko story, if you will. But that's my thing. Is it's not healed yet. I hope it heals up so we can get back to the fireworks. But he's still good enough to win. Amazing.
Most definitely. So Miguel, so that brings me back to the eternal pragmatist, and Miguel says we go back to footwork, and I kept waiting to see that. I kept waiting to see this fantastic footwork because. And I ask you to talk about, take me through round 3, because I realized by round 3, the labrum's not healed. It might be healed, but he's not ready to unleash the right. And so, Miguel, tell me about why wasn't and Scotty kind of started to allude to it there, but talk to me about why the footwork wasn't really there that we expected to see. Why didn't I see the footwork I wanted to see? Why didn't I see the bull and the dancing around and the pulling him around and running around in circles and stepping to the? Why didn't we see all of that then? As a layman, why didn't I see those things?
Well, some of it was Pedraza. I mean, the bottom line is Pedraza, had done his homework, he'd done his scouting, and he came in to do the best he can. Pedraza in the media afterwards is talking about, hey, I hung with him. At least the first half of the fight, I hung with him. You know what I mean? And you can hang your hat on that until you consider Scotty blowing up with the injuries and things like that. Did hang a shadow of Lomachenko. I think Loma's enough of a pro that what we got this time is, you start, if you're covering up for an injury, you start to vanilla your game. and you start to take off the bells and whistles and stuff, stay with safe and what's good. And at the end of the day, as pointed out, it's still you never always had that feeling. I think with Lomachenko, I almost feel like I'm watching that stupid old DeLorean from the Back to the Future movie, where like it's beginning to move fast, and all of a sudden it's like in hyperspeed. That's Lomachenko, and he never hit that hyperspeed anymore. And yeah, I think it's because we got a vanilla. He had a fight set. He knew he had to get the W's not in question. If he doesn't get the W, then everything he's planned for his entire life and career. So the W is without question the most important thing. And you start thinking less risk, less motion, less things that could get you in trouble if the other guy's sharp. Pedraza was a good fight in the early going.
Yeah, so Pedraza, for one thing, he executed for what it's worth, a perfect fight for what he had to deal with. And the one thing that we talked about, and you guys were really specific about, was you believed that we would see a guy who in all other circumstances would be a guy who could use that 7-inch reach to make people look really silly. But in this particular circumstance, it was going to make him look silly because it was going to make him look really slow. And I don't think we necessarily got that for the first 5 rounds. And then all of a sudden Lomachenko kind of starts to come around. Then all of a sudden, boom, he gets the knockdown, and he gets a double knockdown in 11, and he actually kind of went like this, like it was over in 11, because I don't think he thought that he was getting up. So I think he was kind of surprised when he got up. Were you guys surprised when he got up?
No, I mean Pedraza, that's what you pay for at this level, and Pedraza was there to give his all, so I'm not surprised he got up. I think Loma was more of the thing is, that really had to be, look back at the Fury and Tyson, the Fury Wilder. You could tell the first knockdown, Fury was, Wilder was still tense coming out after stuff. The second knockdown, he caught him, bop, bop, and it felt good. He went back to his corner smiling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also that knockdown really makes a difference on judges' scorecard. So I think what you see is Loma, that second knockdown really takes away, and there's just that's the fourth goal. It's now 4-1, not 3-1 in soccer, or that's you're now 17 points up in football. You know what I mean? You're taking it to where the game is already absolutely decided. And I think that's a little bit of jubilation got out of it.
Hey, Scotty, do you know what the final scores were, or do you have them? Do you want me to run through them for you real quick so you can talk about them?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me run through the final scores for you guys on the judges. Obviously, unanimous decision for Lomachenko. And it was 119, 107, 117, 109, 117, 109. So, new lightweight champion in WBO. Talk to me about what that means now, Scotty. Where's Lomachenko go from here? Talk to me about what that belt means. And you guys had both talked about the idea of him kind of being a strap collector here for the next couple fights before we go on to the next big thing. And you hit it on the head. So talk to me about the scores and the belt collection real quick, and then we'll go to the last thing before we wrap this one up. Scotty?
Yeah, I guess like we said before, Mikey Garcia is on the horizon. You also have some folks fighting this weekend that we're going to get into that may or may not be a good matchup for Lomachenko. We've got Tevin Farmer fighting on that card, and one of his only losses is to Pedraza. He's lost actually 4 times, but if you look, it was his debut, and it was some of the lower round stuff. He hasn't lost since 2012, I believe. So maybe Tevin Farmer is a guy that if he can get past Francisco Fonseca this weekend, and then might be a good match for him for Lomachenko. But basically, you're going to have to go back to the mandatories and hope for a bigger fight with like a Mikey Garcia, maybe a Tevin Farmer, if Tevin can raise his profile a little bit. Let's see how this week does for him. And I've got some thoughts on that coming up.
Great, great. Miguel, do you want to finish this one off? We've got a really rough, listen, folks, we've got a really rough internet connection today between all three of us. We've got ice storms. We've got storms in Costa Rica. We've got snow here. We've got wind. There's all kinds of stuff going on. We apologize in advance for that. Some of this will come out in editing. Some of it won't, so we apologize in advance. So usually Scott and Miguel are able to talk back and forth to one another. I've had to kind of intercede between the two of them. I apologize for that in advance. So Miguel, do you want to finish off anything about this before we wrap it up? How about we wrap this one up and we get to our next section? 'Cause I'm really excited to talk about what's next.
No problem. Yeah, I think Loma got the job done, and at the end of the day, that's what we expected heading into this fight. Pedraza was valiant in his effort, but he's just not at the level, and Loma was able to ride that into a win that is lacking the usual highlight reel he cranks out, right? So I predict that we will see him come back fast. He'll probably get whatever he needs in terms of medical attention. Maybe, hopefully that's not a long layoff. I also like to pay attention, there are a lot of these Russian and Ukrainian and Eastern European fighters with vast amateur records that are coming up. And Lomachenko had separated himself from the pack as far as being the elite of the elite guys. There are a lot of good ones. But at cruiserweight, we got Alexander Usyk now. And Usyk is almost, he's bigger than Lomachenko by 80 pounds. So it's just going to be something where it doesn't look as fast or as just diabolical as Lomachenko, but he's just about as precise and about as much of a technician. He's coming off a blowout. It wasn't a blowout. Knocked out Tony Bellew. Bellew is a craftsman, retired after that fight. Bellew knows that man to fight. He knocked him out, stopped big through a weak 8-man tournament. So if you like Lomachenko style, get into it. Check out Alexander Usyk because Usyk's another proponent of the same style. They're teammates. He's bigger, but the last 3 or 4 performances Usyk have all been showcases, whereas now we're talking about Lomachenko nursing an injury. So maybe Usyk is the sharpest of the fighters right now.
Great. Hey, listen. Remember, folks. Everything that Lomachenko said in the ring, literally, Scotty and Miguel said 2 days before the fight. I want to collect belts. I have 2 belts that I'm looking at yet before I want to fight anyone else. And then I want to fight blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And we nailed, not we, they nailed every bit of that succinctly as it could possibly be done. So really excited about that. Scotty, anything before we wrap up here?
No, just keep watching Loma. It's going to be a fun time.
Great. Hey, listen, everybody, subscribe below. Hit the buttons below. Listen, we're working on an Instagram thing we're going to do. Aaron's going to put us on this big thing where we do all this stuff, and it sends out everything to everybody all the time so you can be connected with us constantly, and we can do this live stuff, and I don't know anything about any of it, but it'll be exciting, and it'll be new, and it'll be the next hip, cool thing to do. So, hey, we're looking forward to it. Keep tuning in. Keep that button dialed in. We appreciate everything everyone's doing for us. We love that you guys keep sharing us. If we do it wrong, tell us. If we do it right, tell everybody else. Share this with everybody you know. Tweet it. Let everybody know we're here and what we're talking about. Watch for us to start doing, what are we calling it, Scotty? Picks, wage picks,
We're not there yet. Wage rage?
Wage rage.
We got some ideas.
We'll figure it out. Anyways, for the time being, we'll see you in a little bit. Namaste.
$3. Wait a minute. Hold it. Nobody said anything about $3.
He rates a 3 on my finger scale.
That means I'd cut off 3 of my fingers if God had let me fuck her.